Welcome to another edition of Beyond the Game, presented by TV Sports. I'm your host, Stephen Hayes, and today our guest is NFL Agency One Sports, Ron Butler. Ron, how you doing today, man?
Hey, man, I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm good. I appreciate you taking the time. We finally made it happen.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I'm excited to be here, man. Anytime I get an opportunity to come on and talk it up with young brothers like yourself, man, it's always a pleasure, man. So I appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. No problem, man. And it's about you, man. I want to get into your journey and how you got started now. The Ron Butler that you see today, How did that come about? How did you get to become the man that you are today? Where did it start for you?
I mean, honestly, man, the man that I am now, it just comes from experiences, man. Just having the opportunity to be a part of working with young men, the caliber players that I work with, and having somebody kind of lend me a hand to even be able to come into this business to say, hey, young brother, I like your energy, I like your charisma, and I know that you the reason that you do it go far beyond the financial side of it. So just to kind of give you a little bit about my background and where I come from. I was born and raised in Miami, Florida. Went to high school down here, went to Coral Gables High School, played football, played basketball. I connected with, some of my former teammates that I played in high school with, guys like Jonathan Vilma and Antonio O'Brien, and a few of those guys that were league bound, Frank Gore. All of those guys actually played on the same high school team that I did. And, I always had a passion for sports. As my journey continued after I graduated high school, I then went and I had a stint in junior college, where it was a life lesson in terms of if you want to be around the game, doesn't necessarily mean you have to play the game, but you have to know how to play the game. So as I continued my journey after, I want to say at 19, 20, it was really about trying to find myself. And I think a lot of young men now are like, what do I do? What do I want to do? I want to be successful, but what does that look like? And I knew I wanted to be involved in sports. So I started coaching ball, high school ball for a while. I worked with a lot of Division I athletes. I was a defensive coordinator, defensive backs coach. And, my passion for the game was just so, it was at a level of, I wish I could be out there in their shoes, but for what I do know, I'm going to instill that into my young players. And, to be able to sit down and, talk to them and educate them on the process and what it was going to take to be able to get there. And then you look at it, you see the fruits of your labor in terms of what you're teaching and how you're educating. And, it was a thing for me that I wanted to make sure that those guys not only had a chance to go play college football, but also had a chance to, get a college degree. Like I said, you have to know how to play the game. So, it started there. I was that coach that was going to jump in the 18 passenger van, and we were going to pile up and all of that stuff, man, and get guys on the road and, visit different colleges and just kind of find their niche, find the coaches that were really interested in giving those guys an opportunity. So I've had a lot of relationships kind of, built on going to those different schools and having those athletes and those coaches coming back saying, hey, Ron, we want to develop a relationship with you. But it was really about playing the game. So I had to make sure that, as I went through that process with my guys, that it wasn't necessarily about me, but focusing on getting them to where they needed to be. So I kept those relationships, the guys like, Bobby Bowden and Urban Meyer, a young Urban Meyer, right when he got to Florida, he's leaving Bowling Green. Just Randy Shannon, Larry Coker, Mario Cristobal, when he was a young Mario Cristobal, not the one that you see now at right. Oregon. Right. But it really gave me an opportunity to connect and also learn from these older guys that, you know, had an opportunity to play the game, coach the game, and now they were going to be in a position of authority to be able to go out, recruit kids around your community. And just being able to sit down with those guys and learn from them, it was a valuable lesson. So as I continued to move forward, you know, I actually, sorry about that. I had a call coming through. Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're
fine. As I was going through the process, I had a young man that, you know, who's now been in the league. He's going on year 12, who was a player of mine. And he was a very touted player. You know, he's a first round draft pick coming out of Florida State. And a lot of agents were contacting me about his services, about them, you know, him being able to come under their umbrella. So as I was going through the process with him, I'm listening to the different agents talk, you know, big agencies, small agencies. I'm looking at what guys are throwing at him just to try to get his services. And at that point, hearing those conversations and hearing that dialogue, I said, man, wait a minute. This is kind of the same thing that I do, you know, except for it's not business related. It's me putting my arm around my guys and making sure that they're guided the right way to be able to have a successful career. And then once they retire, you know, they know what they want to do based on having a plan. And I think at that point, I realized it was time for me to transition. So it was really about trying to find the avenue. And I knew that with that young player at the time, he was going to open up some opportunities for me that I probably wouldn't have if I didn't have an in, let's just say that, or a relationship. So fast forward, you know, I met a guy as I was in the coaching ranks who was a very successful agent, Black agent, hardworking guy who then became my mentor. And he gave me an opportunity. The company gave me an opportunity. And for me, it was kind of like, do I want to be an agent or do I want to be a consultant? And for a couple of years, I was on a consultant role, just trying to get my feet wet, more of like a consultant intern type of position. And that was kind of what gave me my start. Then once I realized after signing the first round pick, the first year, signing the second and third round pick the second year, I realized, yo, I got something here. And I felt like at that point, it was time for me to take a step from being a consultant and being an intern to actually now stepping into representation, being NFL certified. So I went through the process. You know, I was able to get my certification, and it wasn't easy, but it was more about, you know, obviously when you're picking up books, there's certain things they're going to teach you in those books, but there's certain things that you're going to have to learn from life experience in terms of working day to day with people.
Right.
And, you know, having that opportunity to work with those guys early on, it gave me it gave me a sense of understanding about what to expect and how to handle certain situations that, you know, at some point you will have to be able to use that knowledge that you've gained. And books, you know, that book really didn't teach you that. It just teaches you about the rules and the regulations of, you know, representing your athletes and certain things you're supposed to do. But for all of the other things that, you know, you see on TV, you see on the different, you know, shows, ballers and this, that, and the other, a lot of that stuff is real. A lot of that content is real that they're putting out. And you have to know how to handle certain situations as an agent, because ultimately you have those players' careers in your hands. You have to know how to move. You have to have relationships with teams, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, it was about getting that knowledge. It was about being able to share that knowledge, and also being able to be more than just a contract guy. I wanted to be the guy that not only, hey, I handle your contracts, but also you're off the field, you know, setting you up in the right situations where people want to take advantage of you. And for me, I took that, and I still use that same philosophy today, which is more than a contract advisor. Okay. And I think that obviously now where I am today with my team, I have some younger agents that are part of that are under my umbrella, and they look at me for, you know, that leadership. So I'm taking all of those experiences from what I've learned over the years, and now I'm educating them in terms of the process and what it's going to take to sign the first round picks, do the second contracts, do the third contracts, have relationships with GMs, have relationships with coaches. And when you're able to do that and you're able to give back, to me, it you know, it's great to make the money, but it's also good to see that you're able to help other people. You're able to help other agents as they go through this process. So that's kind of my scoop, man.
Nah, I appreciate it, man. I'm just sitting there taking it all in. And one of the things that you said more than a contract advisor, and you start with a guy, and you know you build a relationship. You got to know how to handle. What keeps you? How do you handle it personally? Well, obviously, as you have a sports agency and you're going to continue to sign players. That's the end goal, hopefully. But you have everybody that you sign is a different personality. Everybody comes from a different background. So how do you maintain that? Like, how do you keep it all balanced and, you know, be able to know, okay, well, with this person, I have to make sure I take this approach. With that person, I have to take that approach. How do you maintain that? How do you balance it?
I think, honestly, man, in the beginning, when you're only working with, say, a handful of guys, and you're able to have a lot of fellowship. And when I say fellowship, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to talk about God and the Bible and different things like that. But you're just talking about, you know, things that you do on a day-to-day basis. You're talking about life. You're talking about relationships. You're talking about things that are far beyond sports. And when you're working with a group of, you know, 3 to 4 or 5 people, it's easy to kind of maintain each individual personality. And I think I learned that early on. Now, at the same time, there are struggles once you start taking on more and more and more guys. At one point, I think I represented maybe like 17 to 18 guys, but I handled everything. I handled the personalities, I handled the contracts, I handled all of the day-to-day. But that was a responsibility that I gave to myself when I went out and I sat down with those kids and their families. I said that I was going to be able to handle it. Now, fast forward, now you're representing 25, almost 30 players. You kind of take that same philosophy, which is, let me kind of do it in small groups. Okay. So, for example, I have different group chats with different players. So if my veteran guys that have been in the league, you know, 9 years, 10 years, there may be a group chat just for those guys. Then I may have a group chat for my guys that have been in the league 5 years, 6 years, that all came in together and they all have a relationship. And there's a synergy there because guess what? They came in together, but we also developed the relationship all at the same time. Okay. Then you have this new school of guys that say, you know, you just signed this year where, you know, my class consists of, you know, 10 rookie players in this year's draft. And so we do the same thing. You bring them all together. They have an opportunity to fellowship together. And you take that same approach is you're basically splitting up the groups. So you're getting to know everyone based on where they come in, what year they come in. Okay. But then also just being able to take time and say, hey, look, just checking on you. Want to find out what's going on. How's your parents doing, et cetera, et cetera. I even go as far as developing relationships with their parents, with their spouses, you know, their significant others. And to me, I think that's the way it works. It works for me because I've always done it that way. It may not work for other people, but I think for me, I feel like if I'm in control of the situation, really the only person that, you know, if the ball is dropped, then it's my responsibility. So that's the kind of the mindset that I have. Now, at the same time, it wasn't always easy. It was, you know, you have those nights where it's like, damn, I'm dealing with this guy's issues, this guy's issues, this guy's issues. And you get bombarded with different situations because it's all happening at the same time. So, you know, I had to take a step back and kind of self-reflect, you know, on myself And I realized like, hey, you know what? Once you hang up that phone or once you stop texting, you got to let it go. You're dealing with a bunch of different personalities, and their problems could become your problems if you allow it to. So I'm consistent in terms of, working out. I'm consistent in terms of detaching for a minute, and I think it works for me. And I believe that's why I've had the success that I've had.
Now, one of the things you mentioned, you said you wanted to show, the other side and how you can become successful. And that's why this is named Beyond the Game. It's to show, even bringing the athletes and the coaches on, yes, that's definitely something that we encourage, but we also highly encourage the ones who are impacting, but they're not an athlete, they're not a coach.
Absolutely.
Such as yourself, you know what I mean? And just showing the younger generation, there is a way to become successful without having to be that athlete. Everyone's not going to be that LeBron James or Zion Williamson, or you know what I mean? So
Correct.
For you, it's inspiring, for the youth to see you and to be able to continue your journey and to grow and to manifest everything that you thought about. Now,
Correct.
I give you a lot of credit because you said you manage the people and you manage the different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
You become family.
Mm-hmm.
You become family. You become therapist. Whatever you want, whatever you have to be
all,
at that
all
time,
of that.
you become that. Whatever you have to be, you become that.
Right.
So,
right.
And you said you know how to detach. You know
Mm-hmm.
how to step away from it. So, how long did it take you to learn that? How long did it take you to learn to detach and step away?
Honestly, probably about 5 years, because I was so wrapped up and just like, I want to be able to help. I want to be able to change this. I want to be able to do that. So you stay so involved, but then you get to a point where you start to look in the mirror and you're saying, well, wait a minute. Like, all these years have gone by and there's certain things that you might miss out on because you're so wrapped up in what your clients have going on. And that could potentially, set you up for failure, because at some point you might have a breakdown because you're dealing with their stress. Their stress becomes your stress. And you really got to be strong-minded in terms of this business, because it's one of those industries that will chew you up and spit you out if you allow it. It's very competitive. It's very it can be nerve-wracking if you allow it to be. It can be very lucrative if you do it the right way and you have the right people around you that want to see you win. But at the same time, I think that it took me about 5 years to understand that, Ron, you have to operate in a certain space and allow yourself to, like we said, detach so that you can have a peace of mind. Okay. And you can sleep at night, and then you get up the next day and you say, let's do it again. You know what I mean? So now, I'm in a position where, I work with a group of gentlemen that are passionate about this industry. And the one thing I will say is that when you have a team around you that you all have the same common goal, which is one goal, you have to, as a leader of that organization or that company, you have to say, hey, listen, in order for my guys to be successful, I have to operate a certain way. So when people say, hey, why did you choose the name Agency One? And I said, well, when we put this thing together, it was about bringing a group of guys that maybe were young, they were just getting into the business, whether they're black, white, Spanish, whatever. They were young, just getting into the business. They needed to have a platform, but they also needed to understand that in order to be a part of what we were doing, it was one common goal. So that's where the one comes from. Okay. And I felt like as I was going through it and I was thinking about it, I remember when I came up with the whole thing, I was on the turnpike coming back from Orlando. And I said, you know what? I sat down with all these, I've been vetted by all of these different companies. I won't name them, but I've been vetted by all these different companies. And hey, Ron, we want you to be a part of what we're doing, da 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 da. But I realized once you do that, you no longer have control. It becomes corporate. And I wanted to make sure that it stayed kind of like, how can you say, authentic.
Right.
Okay. I think authentic is a word I would like to use. So when I came back, man, I was just like, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to get it done. People are going to buy into it because it's a successful group of agents, young minority group. And you just have to get the right people around you, not just the agents, but your back office support, your marketing team, your PR team. You already have a platform, which is your Philip Dorsett's and your Denzel Perrymans and, and your DeMonte Kazees and all of those other guys, Levante Davids and Travis Benjamins and all of those other guys. You already have your platform is set. So now what you have to do as a leader is you have to put the right people around you that can pick up for what you may lack in terms of, either whether it's experience or just, not having to wear all the hats. Let's just put it that way. So that was how we came up with, that's how I came up with the whole thing. And from that point, man, we just decided to take off. And, I'm looking forward to, the future and what the future may hold.
Now, speaking of Levante David, coming off the much deserved Super Bowl win.
My guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to, I didn't mean to hold you. I know you're a busy man, but I wanted to get your reaction to that. How did you feel when that came true and the way that they won and just having that full circle moment? I mean, being with him and being down for so long, how did that feel for you and for him?
Let me paint a picture for you real quick.
Yes, sir.
Now, everybody, I know you've seen the movie Jerry Maguire, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people have. Okay, there was a moment in that movie when Jerry was at the game and Cuba Gooding Jr. had this great game, but then he got injured at the end of the game. That was kind of the thing. Okay, but there was a scene when they went into, I guess you can say, in the tunnel, and Jerry was waiting for him to come out of the locker room. And when he came out of the locker room, you had all of these cameras in his face. And I'm gonna be honest with you, as I'm sitting in the stands, it was a full circle moment because, Levante and I are more than just agent and client. Okay. He knows, and for majority of my guys, it's the same type of relationship, but this is a very long-standing relationship. We're talking 10 years.
Right.
Okay. So when you've known a person for that long, you've been through a lot of the things that they've been through off the field, on the field. It took me back to that moment in that movie. And there was a sense of fulfillment, not just because, I'm his agent and I've been there from the beginning. It was a surreal moment because the amount of joy that I have for him in terms of his moment, and I knew all the hard work that he put in. It was one of those situations, man, where I just felt like, said, damn, we did it. That was a text. I said, damn, we did it. And it also took me back to when the Pro Bowl voting came out and he wasn't on the Pro Bowl ballot again. And I texted him. I said, hey, listen, man, excuse my language, but I said, hey, man, forget that shit. We playing for championships. Okay? We playing for championships. Now you've been all pro, you've been Pro Bowl. Now you're Super Bowl champion, Levante David. That's going to stick with you forever. When it's time for you to go in the Hall of Fame, because you will get there, it's going to stick with you forever. So to be able to text him that, and he said, you're right. I'm going to let my play do the talking. And for me, sitting in those stands at the Super Bowl, like everything was just like surreal. Just it was that moment where everything that you work hard for, the long days, the long nights, the losing seasons, all of that stuff, there was finally that sense of, hey, we got it done. I got it done. So that was that moment for me.
And I know exactly when you painted that picture, I know exactly that moment. I've seen Jerry Maguire. A lot of people have seen it millions of times. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I just want to say, I remember texting you and I'm like, hey man, congratulations, y'all deserve it. And that is literally truly how I felt. I mean, as looking from the outside, you don't have to, you can look at the success. You can look at, the Super Bowl and all that, but like you said, you have to endure those losing seasons and those tough times in order to get to this. And that's one of the things that I'm sure is one of the toughest parts of your job when it comes to getting to that, you know what I mean? Enduring, if it is a losing season or whatever the case may be, whatever trials and tribulations may come. So for you to be able to balance that and maintain that, man, I commend you. And I just wanted to know if you had any words of encouragement that you could leave with the youth, anybody aspiring to be a doctor or a lawyer, whatever they want to be in life, what words of encouragement could you leave with them?
I think the best thing that I can say for anyone, no matter the race, the gender, whatever, I think that we can be anything we want. Okay, you don't have to be born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Okay, everything comes from hard work, and sometimes it's a little bit of luck where somebody gives you an opportunity, but you take that hard work and that opportunity and you put it together. Okay, I had this saying where I say it's time to get the butter from the duck, and people are like, what the hell does that mean? It's about putting in the work. It's about the long nights. It's whether you're studying for an exam, or you got to wake up because guess what? I got to go out and work on these 100-yard sprints, or you got to go out and you got to pave these roads, or whatever the case may be. And I think that as long as you put the work in, as long as you have the desire to do it, you just got to push yourself. And sometimes it's something that you might hear from a peer, or it could potentially be something that you might see on TV that gives you those chills. And it's like, this makes me want to go harder, So my words of encouragement would be hard work pays off. It's about the work that you put in. And for somebody like myself who, grew up in a single parent home, that, in my 20s, I was really still trying to figure out what it is that I wanted to do. How do I get there? If I could do it, it could be done by anybody. That's my thought process, and that's what I would use in terms of encouragement for anybody that's looking to find themselves and find out what direction they want to go in. And it doesn't have to be an agent. You don't have to be a football player. You got to be a basketball player. You have to be a coach. But you have to find that angle that you feel like is something that when you wake up in the morning, you're excited about what you do. And you ask yourself, how are we going to get it done today? What are we doing today to become successful? And every day that you wake up, that should be your thought process. How do we better ourselves today? How do we make money today? That's definitely what I would say.
Ron Butler, man, I truly appreciate you for taking this time today, man. I appreciate those words of encouragement. Like I said, it took a minute, but we got it. I'm happy.
Hey, listen, anytime, you want me to jump on, man, I definitely appreciate, you using your platform. I respect what you're doing. Keep that ball rolling. I know there's an avenue out there for all of us, and you just keep doing what you're doing, brother.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. Ron Butler, man. Stephen Hayes, Beyond the Game. We out.